I'll let him in.
Welcome, everybody. Good evening. It's so good to see you tonight. Welcome, welcome. Hi, everyone. You are in the right place. We're going to get started in just 2 minutes talking about NAEP scores today with Dr. Burns. We're so glad you could join us on this summer evening. Welcome, everyone. All right, let's get started. So welcome, a warm welcome from the Reading League tonight. My name is Andrea Setmeyer. I have the honor of serving as the National Chapter Director for the Reading League. And it was really the Chapter Leader Network that put this event for you together for you tonight. So a special shout out to the Reading League Virginia team who took point on coordinating. But truly, at one of our leadership meetings, all of our chapters reported this excitement and wonderment around the most recent NAEP scores, and just noticed that there were a lot of misunderstandings among educators, among parents, even in the news sometimes about what NAEP scores are and what they mean. And so we contacted an expert, Dr. Matt Burns, and I'm thrilled for him to come and talk to you a little bit about NAEP data. But truly, the ultimate point here is how are we using reading assessments in a really wise way so that we can make good decisions and see true progress and change for students. So we're thrilled that you're here tonight. If you are not familiar with the Reading League, our mission is to advance the awareness, understanding, and use of evidence-aligned reading instruction. So everything that we do looks to bridge that gap between this large body of research that we call the science of reading and how we're teaching reading in classrooms across the country today. And so webinars like this are just one of the many things that we do to move this mission forward, and we're glad you're here tonight. We are now 40 chapters strong all across the country. Our chapters are independent nonprofit organizations with the same mission that our national office has, just working at that local community level. If you have not connected with your chapter yet, I'd encourage you to reach out. You will meet some of the most generous, knowledgeable people in your state who are really working to make an impact in educator knowledge and ultimately student outcomes in reading. So I invite you to join a chapter today. If you're in a state that doesn't yet have a chapter, you can email me, find me on the website, and I'd love to talk with you about starting a chapter in your state. All right, as we get started in our thinking about NAEP scores, I wanted to just take a minute and share where you can find NAEP data. So NAEP actually is an acronym and it stands for National Assessment of Educational Progress. You might hear this referred to sometimes as the nation's report card. This is what their main website looks like, and Dr. Burns will talk about some of the data in a minute, but if you want to explore your state's data or dive in a little bit as he's talking, I put that link in the chat so that you can get started and explore right along with us. And then it's an honor tonight to introduce to you our main speaker for the evening, which is Dr. Matt Burns. He is the Fine Professor of Special Education at the University of Florida, currently an Assistant Director of the University of Florida Literacy Institute, commonly known as UFLI. I know you all are familiar with that. Dr. Burns has published over 200 articles and book chapters in all kinds of national publications. He's one of the leading researchers regarding the use of assessment, but also intervention. And I think that connection is really powerful when we're thinking about assessment and what makes the most sense for monitoring our intervention and instruction. I'm going to claim him as a school psychologist. So I've been reading his reading research long before I knew about the science of reading. Dr. Burns has been really influential in the school psychology journals and keeping up with best practices. And I have highlighted here on the screen an article that he co-wrote with Dr. Contessa called Guidelines for Determining if a Reading Intervention is Consistent with the Science of Reading. And they talk about 5 different dimensions to really think about the critical components of an effective intervention. It is well worth a read. I'd encourage you to find it. It's published in the Reading League Journal, and it's been a huge contribution to the field, and I know to my work as a school psychologist. So Dr. Burns, thanks for being here tonight. With that, we'll turn it over to you and look forward to learning more about NAEP.
Great, thanks. I'm really excited to be here and have this conversation.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. Sure everyone can see it okay. Great. And I'm really excited to be here. And thanks for inviting me. Thanks for letting me be part of this really cool event. And I know many of you here are, this is a Virginia event, but I think we have people from all over the country, which is really pretty cool. So can we open up the first poll right now to find out what they do and where they're from? So take a second, please, and put into the poll where you're from. You tell me the state, tell me the city if you want. I'm not asking your address, just where you live, what are you doing, and what do you do when you're there? Like you're a teacher, you're a whatever. So I'm going to take a few minutes to answer that. And I need to answer the poll, or I need to end the poll to see the answer, right? So we'll give another minute here. I wish I could see you. It's a bummer I can't see you, but that's okay. Okay, give another second. I'll go ahead and. How do I see the answers to this? If I click stop, let me see the answers? Let's find out. Now let me see the answers. Well, that's a bummer. All right, that's okay. We'll move forward. We'll make it work. Try one more time. All right, so I'm glad everyone's here. I'm gonna assume people are from all across the country doing various types of things. But I know most of you are teachers or building administrators or even a couple of school sites, that type of thing. That's great. I'm excited you're here. And we're talking about NAEP. Now, I got to be honest, this is not among my favorite topics. Now, when they asked, can we talk about NAEP? I kind of an issue with a lot of our testing we do in schools. I will contend that schools do too much testing and not enough assessment. We spend way too much time engaged in collecting data that we oftentimes don't even really use. In many of our state tests, now NAEP is different, but many of our state tests kind of drive me nuts because most of them aren't great. Now I'll tell you, here in Florida, we have a really nice state test because Renaissance Learning basically took STAR, made it our state test. And so we don't have a lot going for us in Florida these days, but we got that. We've got a good state test. And I love what we call some of them. I wish I could ask some of you, you know where you're from, because I know in South Carolina, the state test name is called the Standards of Learning. And so therefore the acronym, like NAEP, et cetera, in South Carolina is the SOL, which I think is hysterical. But in Utah, I don't know if any of you are from Utah or not, but in Utah, the state test name is the Utah Performance Assessment of State Standards, which they call the UPass. And of course, all the kids call the UPass, which if there's some committee out there that didn't see that one coming, that just confuses me every single time. But so today we're talking more about NAEP, and we're going to talk about that in the broader context of database decision making. All right, so as Andrea already said, here's the website. I do encourage you to look at that report card, the nation's report card. It's a website, so it's not like something you download and read. It's very interactive. You can drill down. Now, you can't drill down the most current data. They do it every other year, and you can get the state, you can get that type of data, but you can't drill down to subgroups. Those data aren't quite available yet. But you can look at the overall state. You can look at all of some really good information. So I really encourage you to go look and see, go dive in and look at previous years, et cetera. There's a lot of information there I don't think people realize. But I don't have time to go into too much detail about it. So I'm going to focus on kind of the big things, of course, the achievement levels. And there are 4 achievement levels: advanced, superior performance, proficient. Now they define proficient as solid academic performance, reaches this level, kids that reach that level demonstrated competency over challenging subject matter. Okay, so we talk about proficient, we mean they can handle challenging subject matter. And we talk about basic, the next one, that's partial mastery of knowledge and skills that are fundamental for proficient working at a given grade level. So we talk a lot about proficient, but honestly, folks, I think we should be focusing more on basic. Now, proficient's the goal. or advanced is even the goal. Don't get me wrong. But I want to see kids at least at the basic. If they're at basic, they're usually able to be proficient at the given grade level, usually. Yes, we want them to be proficient. So I'm really more interested in sort of this cut point. Oops. And then, of course, below basic, if they can't do this, they're below basic, and that's our big red flag. So much of the work I do, I'm really trying to denote certainly proficient versus basic, and really focusing on kids below basic to at least get them to basic. Getting a kid to basic increases a high likelihood of success. Getting a kid from basic to proficient absolutely increases success, of course, but not as much as below basic to basic. I hope that makes sense. The difference between below basic and the difference between basic and proficient is not the same, I would argue. Getting a kid to basic is really important. Getting the proficient is fantastic. All right. So let's look at the results. So we look at the data. I'm going to show you the percentages for various groups and centers. So overall, across the country, 31% at or above proficient level, right? So 31% proficient. Still got 40% below basic. Now that's the red flag to me. Yeah, we got 70% of the kids who aren't proficient, but proficient is kind of a misleading word. More important in my world, in my opinion, I've got 40% who are below basic. That's really a red flag. 40% of the kids will not be able to perform at even a basic level. And when you break it up by subgroup, you got kids who are Black, fourth grade. Now I'm looking at fourth grade, 17% proficient, but again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 56% below basic. More than half below basic. That's again concerning. Hispanic, 21%, but again, 50% below basic. Kids eligible for a free reduced price lunch, 19%, but again, now we're looking at 48% below basic. Really concerning. One more, or two more. Kids who are emerging bilingual. Wow, 10%, and I mean, I have to count it. I can't even just estimate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 66% below basic. And then lastly, kids with disabilities, 11% proficient. That's great, but 70% below basic. So again, I really encourage you to go back and look at your data and think about this basic versus below basic. Yes, proficient is the goal, but we got to get into basic. That's got to be step one. And we look at Virginia, because this is Virginia. Let's look at those data. It's very similar to national data. 31% grade level, fourth grade at proficient, and 42% below basic. So very similar to the rest of the country. And if you break it up even more, we've got 31% in this, 31% in advanced. There we go. I got to hide you there. 31% in advanced or proficient, 28% in basic, and then of course 42% below basic. Right? So one goal would be get these kids here to here. And across, it's almost right square in the middle. Virginia is almost right square in the middle. This is the percentage of kids at various, this one's at basic or higher. So Virginia is kind of right in the middle. And you can look and see states above and below it. Right? But now, okay, so that's sort of the overall results. But I was intrigued by looking at the data a little more depth as much as I could. And again, these are older data now once you get to this level. But did you know what's on the NAEP? The NAEP is basically two things for reading. They read a short story and a poem. That's it. And this is a sample one. Simple short story. I just cut off the first little bit. There's much more to the story than just this, what I've shown you here, but and have room to fit it all. So this, they read a short story and then a poem, and then they answer basically 10 questions. And the 10 questions are these type, and this is the percentage of kids nationally who got it right last time. Okay. So the thing I want to point out is a couple things. Kids do pretty well in fourth grade. I'm looking at fourth grade only. They do pretty well with a lot of the items, recognizing stated character motivation and a multiple choice, selected responses, multiple choice. That's 75% get that one right. Recognizing detail related to a main event with a multiple choice, 68% get that right. Basically, the four well, there's more, but 4 of the multiple choice, about 2/3 or more of the kids are getting it right in 4th grade. Recognizing reason for plot, they're doing pretty well. Text-based generalization, they don't do great with interpreting descriptive phrases. And I think these actually things might be related. They don't do great with interpreting descriptive phrases. Now that's still multiple choice, but only 31%. So if it's something like like an analogy or something like that, they don't do great with identifying those and tell you what those mean. Now the last 2 down here, these are also multiple choice, and they do a little better with recognizing meaning of words. There's 2 items for recognizing meaning of word, but 52%, 60%, not 75%, but certainly, not as bad as some. So in essence, they don't do great with this one, and then they do poorly with 3 constructed responses. There are 3 items that the kids can't select an answer. They have to write an answer, and they just do poorly with that. 40%, 38%, 27%. So some of it, look at the item, describing difference between 2 characters, interpreting story and poem with support, and evaluating character and support their opinion. But I think the thing that those have in common is those are the only 3 constructed responses, and they're basically the 3 lowest scores with 1 exception. To me, that's a big red flag. So we've been talking, I can't tell you, for many years we have this mentality of, we have kids take multiple choice items during the school year to practice getting ready for the tests. Well, the NAEP they're doing pretty well with those multiple choice ones. They're not doing so hot with the constructed response. If you want more detail, I don't have a lot of faith in this. So again, Nation Report Card, it'll tell you kids in the basic and 4th grade, generally speaking, should be able to do these types of things. And I don't have a lot of confidence in these being accurate. And they're in the handout for today. You can certainly read them over. They might make sense to you and with your kids, but there's a long history of research that shows, even if you look at basic whatever, that a particular score doesn't really predict what a kid can do very well. Especially one like this, because this, you could get, 5 out of 5 right, or 6 out of 6, 6 out of 10. I'm sorry, 5 out of 10 right, 6 out of 10 right, and score in that basic range or even higher. But it doesn't take into account which ones you got right or wrong. So if you got these 3 wrong, and this one wrong, this one wrong, this one wrong, these 4 in here in the middle wrong, with the 4 lowest ones and all the rest right, well, that's a different profile than if for some reason you got these 4 wrong and all the rest right. So I don't have a ton of faith in this. I wouldn't spend a lot of time on writing lesson plans or things like that based on what the NAEP says your kids should be able to do because they score in this range. So that's not really terribly helpful, in my opinion. And I've not studied that. I'm simply telling you there's decades of research that has shown that a score on a test doesn't predict what a kid can do very well at all. It's just the nature of how the tests are designed. So I want to start looking at how to dive in more deeply. And of course, you can't use NAEP to do that. But let's talk about ways you can look at data to help have an impact on NAEP and other types of scores. Okay. So I'm going to talk about 2 types of decision making. The first one is class-wide need. And I talk about class-wide need quite a bit, but basically let's first talk about what types of assessment we should look at. So purpose of assessment, I generally speaking talk about 3. Which of my students are not meeting grade level? That's a screener. Then if the kids who score low, they're not meeting grade level expectation, I look at the diagnostic. I see what other specific needs. And then I monitor student progress. Are they getting better? Okay, those are 3 things I really focus on. Now I'll tell you, NAEP doesn't really fit any of these. NAEP is an outcome measure. NAEP is not a screening, diagnostic, or monitoring progress. You don't get the data in time for it to be a screener. You don't get the data in time for you to help the kids who took it. Hardly at all. So it doesn't really fit these. It's an outcome measure. It's a summative outcome measure. And that's really about all it can be used for. But when I want to really drive instruction, I got to look at screening, diagnostic, and monitoring progress. Now, yes, there are all kinds of other types of data we look at as well. But from a system of instruction, intervention, assessment, these are the kind of 3 big buckets in which we place things. I'll encourage you, by the way, if you haven't seen the Education Advocacy Center, so if you evidence Advocacy Center, It's a group of people led by Doug Carnine and Linda Diamond, and we were developing evidence-based resources for not only school-based practitioners, but for policymakers and parents, et cetera. And so I chaired the team on assessment. So we went through and said, we think assessment falls in, we define it this way, and we see these characteristics. And then if you go and look at the actual breakdown of the menu, we say, here's some evidence-based resources to help you guide your decision-making in those areas. It's all free. It's really cool. It's called Evidence Advocacy Center. Okay? I really encourage you to Google that and check it out. So, but let's look at now. So what happens if we use data for the purpose for which it wasn't designed, which we do all the time? Let me give you my favorite example. So we did a study on the Fontes Pinnell. I was literally sitting in my office one day, and I study things like instructional level. So whenever something comes out that supposedly measures an instructional level, I tend to look at it. So I got the Fontes Pinnell benchmark assessment system, just the manual. And I was looking through the manual, the benchmark assessment system, and there are a couple of things that were concerning. But then on like page 4, it said, you can use the BAS to screen kids' reading skills. So that's interesting. So I read through the rest of the manual, and nowhere else does it talk about that. Doesn't provide any data to. So I thought, okay, let's test it. So we took about 900 kids, almost 1,000 kids, and gave them each the MAP, the Measures of Academic Progress, NWEA, Fine Screener, Fine Measure. Talk about that in just a minute. Then we gave them Ames Web CBMR, curriculum-based measurement, oral reading fluency, just like Dibbles, Acadians, etc., and the Fontes Pinnell benchmark assessment system. And here's what we got. So among the 646 kids who did well on the MAP, 501 of them did well on Ames Web, which is 78%. So think of it like a grade. Okay, that's passing. It's a C+. It's not great. I'd like to be higher, but it's acceptable. But among the 322 kids who didn't do well on the MAP, 276 of them also didn't do well on the Ames Web oral reading fluency, which is 86%. Much better. That's what we really want to see. I'm okay with this being low. Is not low, but lower, as long as this is higher. I'm okay with a kid being identified as needing support and they really didn't, but we can't miss any kids who truly need support. So overall correct classification 80%. Okay, that's good. That's solid. But now look at the BAS. Among the 556 kids who did well on the MAP, 367 did well on the BAS, which is 66%. It's a D. I guess it's passing, but it's not very good. More importantly, among the 290 kids who didn't do well on the MAP, only 90 of them didn't do well on the F&P, which is 31%. And to this day, I've done this type of study a number of times, remains the lowest percentage I've ever seen. It's terrible. Overall correct, that means 200 kids, folks. 200 kids would need additional support and not get it. Overall correct classification, 54%. 54%. You know what that means? You could buy this test for thousands of dollars. Train all your teachers how to do it. Take 20 or 30 minutes per kid, or just give each teacher a quarter, and they'll get it right just as often. The Fontes Pinnell benchmark assessment system was not designed to be a screener. I don't care what they say. It was designed to help drive instruction. It does that really badly too, but that's a different conversation. So I always come back to these purposes of assessment. Screening. What are good screeners? A reading by Fastbridge, early reading by Star reading, NWA MAP. These are good screeners. They do a nice job of saying can read, can't read. That's it. Now, I hear teachers say all the time, well, they don't like Star because it doesn't tell them how to help their kids. Correct. It's not supposed to. It has one job, to identify kids who need help. That's it. If you're using it to drive instruction, that decision is likely going to be more related to measurement error than student performance. When we look at diagnostic, okay, now we got collected specific skills. Now, iReady was designed to be a diagnostic measure. Its buckets are a little big, but it's not a bad place to start. iReady is now, however, iReady is not designed to be a screener. Talk about that in a second. And then monitor progress. You can't beat CBM. You can't beat curriculum-based measurement. Ames Web, Acadians, Dibbles, all the others. That's the monitor progress. Again, those aren't terribly rich data. They're not designed to tell you what to do. They're simply designed to see is the kid getting better. And that's about it. Okay, so if we use a assessment for a purpose which it wasn't designed, we're likely to get error. When we screen with iReady, we get error. When we use star reading to drive instruction, we get error. So I say is if you're going to use, don't use star reading to drive instruction, use other measures. And if you're going to use iReady for diagnostic, that's fine, but don't use it to screen. If you're using it to screen, pick kids right around the cut point. And I don't know what the numbers are off the top of my head, but let's say a cut point is whatever, 330. I made that up completely. So arbitrarily pick some number above and below that cut point and give them another dibble, give them dibbles in addition. Just those 10, 15 kids in the whole grade who are just above the cut point, just below. Give them a 1 minute dibbles just to make sure that they're really scoring within that range and it's not actually measurement error. So go look at the data you collect and make sure the data match the purpose for which you're trying to use it. That's got to be step one. And we work with our PLCs quite a bit to interpret the data. I won't spend time on this, but my point here is, in my opinion, in my work we do, our professional learning community is what drives this decision making. So you get data look like this, you got your map and those, like I see a bunch of kids who are low and give them a CBM or reading fluency, a bunch of kids are low. Well, what do? Well, first thing I would recommend you do is find the median. No matter what measure you use, find that median score for your class and compare that median score to your criterion. So in this case, this is oral reading fluency is the screener. We take the median score to 92. In this case, the winter benchmark, this was collected in the winter, the benchmark, seasonal benchmark is 101. If your class median is below the benchmark criterion, you have a class-wide need. You have a systems issue. Got to make a change. Got to make a change. If there's an even number like this, you take the two middle scores and take the average of the two, which in this case would be 62. The median is 73. That's a class-wide need. So every system I talked about, every screener I've listed so far, if you use their data system, will give you the class median. If not, just rank order them and pick the middle score. It's really easy. But if you see a class-wide need, so you see something like this where the median is below the benchmark criterion, you have a class-wide need, what do? Well, it's all about the core. Okay, it's all about the core. Now I'll plug UFly Foundations for just a second. If you see class-wide needs, that means you probably need more foundational reading skills and instruction and foundational reading skills. And UFly Foundations is a great way to do that. I didn't write it. I had nothing to do with this development. Holly Lane and Valentina Contest wrote the manual, and I get no money for talking about it, nor do they, which I think is amazing they did that. So if you see, I'll plug this real quick. If you see class medians, take a look at foundations. That's a good indication you need some more work. Kids need more work in basic foundational skills. You could also go to What Works Clearinghouse, Google IES, which is Institute of Education Sciences. Google IES, Institute of Education Science Practice Guide. Okay. The IES, and I looked today, these practice guides are still there. And I don't say that to be facetious. I'm worried that someday they'll be gone, but for now they're there. What they've done is they've gotten researchers together around important topics like providing reading interventions for kids 4th through 9th grade, reading comprehension, teaching reading comprehension, kindergarten through 3rd grade. And they get them together, look at the research, and they make a couple quick recommendations. Like in this one, build the coding skills, provide purposeful fluency building activities, routinely use a set of comprehension building practices, which I won't get each one, and provide students with opportunities to practice making sense of stretched text. Okay. And you click on one, it tells you how much strength there is, how much evidence there is, and you click on one, it tells you really how to do it explicitly, what to do. So if I see a class-wide in need, I'm going to go to this website, IES Practice Guides, find the one that fits your needs, fits what you're looking for, open it up, pick one or two recommendations. Don't do all four, pick one or two. Say, this is, wow, our kids need more work with multisyllabic words, or I don't really teach multisyllabic words, so let's pick that one. Pick one or two that work for you and have your PLCs really dive into that one or two. And then lastly, I'll encourage you to start a class-wide intervention. Now, I can't spend a lot of time today on how to do the class-wide intervention. I talk a lot about that. I've got a YouTube channel. If you're not familiar with PALS, I use PALS quite a bit, Peer Assisted Learning Strategies. That's a good one. I use that one still for kindergarten. It's really well done for kindergarten. I use it I still use it quite a bit for high school. But for 1st through 8th grade, I do something different. So again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time in this. I wish I could, because today we're talking about data, but basically you cut the class into two and create a bunch of heterogeneous dyads. So you take the lowest of the low kid and put that with the lowest kid in the high group, and all the way down to the highest kid in the low group with the highest kid in the high group. Create a bunch of heterogeneous dyads. We give them each a folder, and the folder has a bunch of passages written at Reader 2's instructional level. And I just go to, there's lots of ways you can do it, but just get Reader 2's instructional level. Lexile works fine for this. It's not great, but it works fine for this. And the kids read to each other for 20 minutes a day. We always have Reader 1, Reader 2. Reader 1's always the stronger reader. So Reader 1 always reads first for 5 minutes out loud while Reader 2 follows along. And then they switch. Reader 2 goes back and reads the exact same thing for 5 minutes while Reader 1 follows along. And then now we switch. Okay, Reader 1, your turn again. Read 5 more minutes out loud. But now after every paragraph, they stop and do paragraph shrinking. I'll explain that in a second. But it's all new text. And then stop, time's up. Okay, Reader 2, they read for 5 minutes out loud, all new text, doing paragraph shrinking. So it's repeated reading the same text twice, new text each time for this. And paragraph shrinking, here's why I like it related to this conversation. Again, students seem to do pretty well with the multiple choice. They don't do well with constructing responses. So we ask them to look at the paragraph, name the most important who or what in the paragraph, the most important thing about the who or what in the paragraph, and then say all that in 10 words or less. Okay? So literally we just say, that paragraph's about Thomas Edison. The most important thing about Thomas Edison is he didn't like working. He grew up on a farm, didn't like it. He wanted to work with machines. Say it in 10 words or less. Thomas Edison didn't like farming. He liked working with machines. Great. That's all we do. Oh, I can see the chat. Oh, I'm so happy. Okay, good. All right. So, yeah, someone asked, where do I find level text? If you're looking for content class, I use readworks.org. It's free. And go in and sort by Lexile by topic. And you sort by topic, you can get topics for content classes. Oh, I wish I would have seen this. Oh, thanks for whoever said you like that. Wait, Linda Diamond, you're here? Oh, hi, Linda. That's funny. I just plugged EAC. Hope you heard that. Okay, great. Sorry, I wish I would have realized that was scrolling earlier. I'll keep an eye on that now. All right. So now, so we do this for 20 minutes a day, and we do standard error correction. Again, I can't take time to really talk about what it is. We do it for 10 days in elementary school, 15 days, 3 weeks in middle school, right? And here's what we found. The first time we ever did this, we went to these teachers and said, here, just try this for 2 weeks. We picked 2 weeks because we thought the teachers would say, yeah, I'll do it for 2 weeks. That's literally the only reason we picked it. And in 2 weeks, the first time we ever tried it in these 2 third grade classrooms, the medians went from 81 and 87 to 104 and 115 in 2 weeks. Remember, the goal is 91. I mean, we were blown away by that. So we've studied this a number of times now, but now we look and see which kids need support. The number of kids who need support went from 12 out of 23 to 5. That's the number we want them to be. That's why we've got to get that first step in place. Got to address class-wide need first, so we can get the number of kids who need support down. And then the number of kids who need support went from 10 out of 20 and 13 out of 23 to 5 in these 2 instances. And we've studied this a bunch of times. We did a randomized controlled trial. We see a baseline. The kids were very similar, but the kids that got the class-wide intervention did much better. We've done middle school randomized designs. We did it in 4th and 5th grade. Now, here in 4th and 5th grade, the first time we ever did it, we did it with content area passages. So the superintendent in this building, in this district, told the principal she couldn't do this class-wide intervention we'd set up. Because in this district, their scores, their state test scores were lowest in science. So any extra effort had to go in increasing science scores. If you can't read, you're not going to do well on the science test, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so all we did was I just mentioned, went to those content passages, sorted by topic, sorted by Lexile, And we found topics that were science and matched the scope and sequence of the science program, the science curriculum. Now, I'll tell you, sometimes that match was pretty loose, but it was there. I did exactly I just showed you, but now our variable, our measure is maze. So this is you give the kids a passage and omit every fifth word and put in 3 choices, a near miss, a far miss, and the right answer. And the kids circle as they go. I don't love this. It's a fine screener. It's not a very good indication of comprehension, but we could see, generally speaking, are they learning science content with this quick little assessment? And we found was, so here you see in 4th grade, these 4th grade classroom, this is the number they got correct in baseline before we did anything. That little black line is how much are supposed to go up based on national norms. And this is how much they actually did go up. Blew it away. Same thing in 5th grade. This is where they started off. That little black line is how much they're supposed to go up. And this is how much they actually did go up. Blew it away. And we've replicated this a number of times. First time we did it in middle school with random assignment. This is our control group. Now in this, they had science and social studies. It was block scheduling. So one day they had science, the next day they had social studies. So here they had 2 sets of passages, 2 folders, 2 sets of folders. And so same kid, same teams, all that. It's one day they did it in science class, next day they did it in social studies with science and social studies content. And you see a nice jump in reading fluency compared to the control group. Accuracy was high for both groups. But look at the jump in science and social studies compared to the control group. And in this call, okay, I got to tell you real quickly. I was walking in carrying all these folders for all the readers. And we're 10 steps from the door, and my contact there says to me, oh, by the way, we have a lot of kids who are ELL, emerging bilingual. We have a lot of kids who are ELL. Does that matter? I'm like, yeah, but we're 10 steps from the door. Can't do anything about it now. So we did it exactly as I just showed you. Okay, exactly as I just showed you. Look at the nice jump we saw in reading fluency compared to the control group. We even saw a jump in accuracy and nice jumps in science and social studies content knowledge. Worked really well. No change for these kids who are emerging bilingual than what I just showed you. And it worked really, really well. Then lastly, one more comment on this. Lindsay Kimene, who I know now, but I did not know at the time. She wrote 7 Mighty Moves. It's a great book. Highly recommend it. Anyway, she had never met me. A few years ago, she saw a website. So I have a YouTube channel. And on my YouTube channel, I have a video of how to do this. She stumbled across that video, decided to try it. So here she has a picture of her kids engaging in it. They're doing reading with each other. They're about to do paragraph shrinking because that says paragraph shrinking. And the class median went from 50 words a minute 2 weeks later up to 66. No support, no training, no nothing. She just did it on her own. She's amazing, by the way. So, but still, she pulled it off. So first thing, you're looking at increasing scores and such is let's look for class-wide need. Secondly, we've got to target what kids need by looking at the category of the need through small group instruction. Does one size fit all? I'm going to contextualize this as intervention for a second, but it's the same for small group instruction. So just for the heck of it, I put one size fits all into Google Images, and the first thing that came up was this, which kind of blew me away because it's true. The sock is one size fit all. My son is 6'5", and he and I wear the same size sock. I'm 6'1", and we have since he was like in 3rd grade. It's so, okay, hats off. The sock is one size fits all. The second thing I came up with was Frank Zappa's album by the same name, One Size Fits All. It's a great album. But the third thing they came up with is this. I have no idea what it is, but apparently it's one size fits all. So one size fits all is kind of a silly concept. So why do we try and do it for intervention or instruction? It doesn't work. We know that. So I want to assess the 4 basic areas. I put vocabulary and comprehension together because it's tough to tease those 2 things apart. But I'm going to start by looking at these 4 big buckets, okay? So vocabulary comprehension, STAR reading, MAP, and A reading, those are basically measures of comprehension. It's a good place to start. If they score low on that, look at fluency. Oral reading fluency is a nice general outcome measure. It's also a really good indicator of reading fluency. So if they have low comprehension, their STAR is low, look at fluency. If they have low comprehension but good fluency, comprehension is the most fundamental skill in which they struggle. Okay, if they have low comprehension, low star, and low reading fluency, then we might look at phonics, like nonsense word fluency, decodable word fluency from FastBridge. Spelling measures are nice measures but not, I know it's different, but if a kid is a struggling reader, you can sometimes help use spelling to determine their phonics needs as well. So low comprehension, low star score, a low oral reading fluency score, and a good phonics score means comprehension is low, fluency is low, phonics are good. Fluency is the most fundamental skill in which that kid struggles. We will target that. Low comprehension, low star, low reading fluency, low phonics, look at phonemic awareness. We measure word blending and word segmenting. That's it. Isolating too, but that's it. Some of these more advanced phonemic awareness skills are not needed to get a kid to read at the basic or proficient level. So I don't worry about those. I'm going to measure blending and segmenting. So if a kid's got low star, low comprehension, low fluency, low phonics, but good phonemic awareness, phonics is the most fundamental skill in which the kid struggles. I'll target my intervention there. Low across the board, target phonemic awareness. Now, when I say target, I don't mean exclusively. If I'm doing a phonics intervention, I'll do a phonemic awareness review and end with, having the kid read decodable text. And I might even ask the kids comprehension questions from the decodable text. So absolutely, if I'm doing a phonics intervention, there'll be phonemic awareness, there'll be fluency built in, but for gosh sakes, they're gonna get phonics. Because I've seen too many times kids with low phonics skills getting a reading fluency intervention, getting repeated reading, getting something like read naturally. And okay, so if a kid needs phonics, they got to get phonics. Now, if they're low, if their target is fluency, yes, I'll do phonics reviews every single time. Yes, I'll ask comprehension questions, but we're going to do reading fluency. So I use this two ways, either to drive tier 2 intervention and also just core instruction. Now, for core instruction, I dive in more deeply, which I don't have time to really explain. But basically, if they're low reading fluency, well, let's start with this. Low phonics, I pull out a decoding inventory. Low phonemic awareness, I pull out a phonemic awareness inventory to try and really isolate where they are, group the kids based on those data, deliver small group instruction. It's that simple. I've given you, I'll show you an example of this in a second, but I've given you, there's lots of phonics. Decoding inventories are easy to get, and they're all pretty much fine. Of course, CORE has their phonics survey, which is quite nice, and their phonemic awareness measure, which are both quite nice. I've given you a free decoding inventory, which we developed when I worked with Press at the University of Minnesota. And I've given you the phonemic awareness inventory as the handout for today. All right, let's do one. I think I'll just try and use chat. So, you can't switch to a chat student.
You can use chat, Dr. Burns.
Then I'll use that. If anyone doesn't mind, you don't have to participate if you don't want to, but let's do this. I'm going to describe a profile, put into chat what the target is for that kid, okay? I was hoping you'd switch it just to me. You can't, that's okay. So go to the chat and answer this question. I'll give you a profile. Simply type in comprehension, fluency, phonics, PA for phonemic awareness, okay? Comprehension means comprehension vocabulary, and you can just put comp, fluency, phonics, or phonemic awareness, okay? So a kid has low star reading, low oral reading fluency, a low nonsense word fluency score, but did well in the phonemic awareness inventory. So low comprehension, low fluency, low phonics, good phonemic awareness. What's that kid's intervention target? You're fast learners, or you already knew this. Well done. Good. Yep, phonics. Awesome. Very good. Very good. Awesome. Thank you. So it's really that simple, and we don't do enough of that in schools. This is not complicated. This is quite simple. Now, I worked with some administrators, and they asked me to put it into a flow chart because for some reason they said flow charts work better for administrators. So I did. I don't think this is much more helpful than what I just showed you, but low comprehension, can they comprehend? No. I'm sorry, do they have a comprehension deficit? No. Core instruction. Yes, look at fluency. Is fluency low? No. Intervening for comprehension. Yes. Look at decoding. Is decoding low? No. Intervene for fluency. Yes. Look at phonemic awareness. Is phonemic awareness low? No. Intervene for decoding. Yes. Intervene for phonemic awareness. I still think this makes more sense, but if this flowchart works for you, great. And yeah, I mentioned I gave you the Press Footy Maker Wears inventory, which I really like this tool. It measures isolating, segmenting, blending sound, a little bit of manipulating. It takes just a few minutes to give. It's criterion referenced. It's simple to give. Now, we group the kids and deliver instruction. We also can do this for tier 2. So here's the intervention. So we teach our PLCs to go 3rd grade phonics for reading, 4th grade phonics rewards, etc. 3rd grade fluency, read naturally. 5th grade comprehension, learning strategies, curriculum inferencing, this type of thing. It's really that simple. So I would encourage you to think in terms of core instruction, and then go back and look at your interventions that you use in your schools as part of your tiered intervention system, and really identify what they address. Sound Partners is a great phonics intervention. Phonics for Reading is a great phonics intervention. Rewards, if you're if you're in middle school or even a high school, look at Rewards. It's a great tool for phonics. Road to the Code, early literacy skills, fantastic. Interventions for all phonological awareness, fantastic. These are, and by the way, these are all with a couple exceptions. These are all on Amazon for like $30. Sound Partners is on Amazon for like $30. Phonics for Reading is on Amazon for like $40. Rewards are a little more expensive. Still you can get, but it's a little more expensive. Read Naturally is not. That's a program you have to buy. Learning Strategies Curriculum. Go to the University of Kansas website. Just Google Learning Strategies Curriculum, University of Kansas, and they have a whole bunch of them. There's one on inferencing, there's one on teaching main idea. They're both really, really good. By the way, if you're looking for a nice resource for teaching comprehension as a small group instruction, look at Reciprocal Teaching. It's a great resource as well. Okay, let's see. Someone just asked a question I haven't talked about. Okay, yes, thank you. Is it appropriate to use UFly as an intervention after doing a diagnostic? I would argue yes. Now, I haven't put it up here yet because we're studying it right now. We just finished writing a placement test. We just validated a nice placement test for UFly, so you don't have to use a different type of phonics screener to see where the kids are. You can use one we developed for UFly. Now, it's not on the website yet. It'll be there soon because we're writing up some guidance materials and stuff. But I think, in the next week or two, I'm sure it'll be up there. So watch for that. And yeah, we are studying it. We have some cool data. We haven't published it yet. So we're seeing using phonics, using UFly with 2nd, 3rd, 4th graders as intervention is working really pretty well. But we teach our PLCs how to do this. That's the point I'm making. 4th grade comprehension, learning strategies, curriculum inferencing. And it takes them about as long as I just did. They sit down, look at the data, and they say, this is low, the kid needs phonics, they need this, boom, and they're done. Great. Okay, I want to talk about that. Someone asked, STAR Reading as a student instructional planning report provides specific skill. Do you recommend using this report to plan for intervention? My straight answer is no. As I said a minute ago, I work with Renaissance Learning a lot. They're good people. Their measures are great. I had a meeting with them today. They're wonderful. The STAR is a great screener, but it tries to use domain scores to identify those instructional domains. Domain scores are oftentimes built on, because they use item response theory, it's possible for a kid to get a score in a domain with taking only one item or even 0 items. So those domains tend to be unreliable for individual kids. If a classroom teacher wants to look at the average domain score, that's different. Do that all day long. But I wouldn't look at the instructional planning report or a domain score for an individual kid. I would just simply look at that overall score. So I don't have a lot of confidence in their intervention reports. But it depends on how I wouldn't use it to identify tier 2 interventions, no. But if you want to send something home with a parent to work on or something and you want to use it for that purpose, great. But otherwise, no. Okay. Yep, I agree. So people are talking about other types of interventions as well. Great. So go back and look, fill in this matrix. And I only went through 8th grade. You could certainly do it in high school as well. And actually, honestly, rewards, read naturally, and learning strategies curriculum are totally fine for high school. You could use that pretty much all the way through high school. Okay. And we've done lots of studies on this. Here we have 3 groups of kids. We've got targeted, as I just did. We've got kids who are getting LLI, level literacy intervention, and the good readers, kids who are good readers. This is the average rate of growth in 2nd and 3rd grade. These are a couple hundred kids. The average rate of growth for targeting was significantly better than LLI and also significantly better than the good readers. So for us, the gap between good reader and struggling reader got smaller. Same thing in third grade, significantly better than LLI, but also significantly better than the good readers. My joke is I love LLI, literacy intervention. I use it all the time as my control group, and it makes the intervention I'm actually studying look a lot better. And we've done a meta-analysis. I won't spend time on this. Basically, it's twice as effective to target your intervention than it is to not. That's all that basically means. And that's a bit oversimplified, but that's okay. Okay, let me show you real quickly one more point about how to cheat this. So these are all the data you need. I mean, there's tons of data here. This is a school that gives every kid MAP and every kid CBM or reading fluency. I don't advocate for doing that, by the way. I would just give the kids who score low on MAP or reading fluency. So I don't love MAP or STAR K through 2. Two is sometimes okay, especially STAR. Both are probably fine. But K1, I think there are better measures K1, and the Dibbles measures and those, I think those are better K1. But let's say we're talking about these are a group of second graders, which I think is true. Let's say if they're third graders and above, I would just give them MAP or STAR, and just the kids who score low, give them reading fluency. Okay? But this school does it for every kid. So I don't know how to interpret MAP. Like I know what it means. I mean, RIT. I don't know what that, like if someone says my kid's RIT's a 180, I have no idea what that means. So I look at the percentile rank. If they're at or below the 25th percentile, they're certainly struggling. So remember, I'm presenting MAP as a measure of comprehension. So man, with one possible exception, which I think is probably measurement error, these kids are low in comprehension. Okay. Now we look at the reading fluency. Now let's say in this case, we've got 60 is the cut point, which I think it is. So all these kids are low comprehension, with one exception, but low fluency as well. Now, the last piece of the puzzle we don't talk enough about is accuracy. This is percentage of words read correctly. Done lots of studies with this. We've got one coming out very soon. We consistently see that if a kid doesn't read at least 93% of the words correctly, they're probably struggling to break the code. 93%. Now, with older kids, it might be 95%, like fourth grade and above, fifth grade and above. But certainly any kid below 93% is struggling to break the code. So you pick a kid, right? First percentile for comprehension, 30 words a minute, 77% correct. That means low comprehension, low fluency, low phonics. That kid needs phonics. Compare that to this kid here. This is a great example. Well, let's find a better example. Better. Great example. So let's pretend this 37, like these are real live kids, and sometimes real live kids can be such a pain. So this kid scored a 37. I think that's measurement error. I don't think that's actually, let's say he's low in comprehension. So low comprehension, low fluency, but his accuracy is pretty good. This kid, low comprehension, low fluency, his accuracy is not so good. These two kids probably need two interventions, two different types of interventions, even though their scores really don't look that different. Okay. These two kids, this kid needs probably fluency building. This kid probably needs phonics. Okay. All right, let's do a couple more quick questions in the Zoom. A quick hint, although I know we're about to wrap up, is the shorter you keep your questions, the easier it is I can respond to it quickly. Oh my gosh, to be proficient. Okay, so there's a difference between being proficient and being deficit. Okay, when I say 25th percentile below, that means they're struggling. But the goal you're saying is 65th. That seems pretty darn high. 65th percentile. That means only a third of the kids can ever be proficient. So I question that. But anyway, but there's a difference between being proficient and being at risk or being struggling. So below the 25th percentile means they're low. They need support. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad. That's good. Thank you for saying that. So let's pick a kid. I'll pick an easy one. Again, same thing. Our choices are comprehension, fluency, phonics, phonemic awareness. You can just put PA, abbreviate it however you want. I'll pick an easy one. Let's go with student number 11. 6th percentile for comprehension, 31 words a minute, 82% correct. What's that kid need? Throw it in chat. I'm sorry, I probably didn't say that. Throw it in the chat. I'll say it again. 6th percentile, 31 words a minute, 82% correct. So that kid needs phonics, fluency, or comprehension. Which is it? Yeah, that's an easy one. Phonics. Good. Yes, percentile data is below the 25th percentile means they're struggling with comprehension. That's the MAP comprehension percentile rank. Good, looks really good. Yeah, the kid needs phonics. Now, oh, I'm gonna put it on you. Look at these data, find a kid on there that you think needs fluency. Remember, the fluency means low comprehension, low fluency, probably pretty good phonics though. So find a kid on there that probably just needs some fluency building and put that student number in the chat. It'll take me a second to transpose it, but I can make it work. So find a kid anywhere on this page that probably needs support just in basic fluency building. I knew it's gonna be a train wreck. Yeah, so student 37 is a great example. Student 3 certainly has good accuracy. Student 37 has low comprehension, low fluency, but good accuracy. Very good. So that's a great example of a kid that just needs some fluency building. Now, you're going to still teach phonics. You're still going to do, phonics review, but you're really going to hit fluency hard. Student number 17, the kid right below it. Yeah, it's another good example. Thank you. Good. Awesome. All right, well done. So again, I go back and work with our PLCs. We give them this form, which I gave you as a handout. They fill in the student, all the data. We group the kids. Now, I might take these kids in the decoding for instruction and give them a decoding inventory to see where to start instruction, that type of thing. But that's a good start. We've got our buckets. We've got our big buckets. And we teach our PLCs how to fill this all out. By the way, you'll notice class median, 93.5. The first thing we look at is they write in the class median, and they look at the criterion, 91. So here, the median is above the criterion. There is no class-wide need. So we can dive into doing small group instruction intervention. I think for time's sake, I'll skip, just give me another example. By the way, I can tell you right now, without even looking at it, there's a class-wide need because look at all the red, right? And this is another study that shows it works. This is coming out in the next issue of, I'm not sure which issue it is, but coming out in an issue of preventing school failure. In this one, we did nothing except show the teachers the framework, and they did everything else as they ordinarily do. And the targeted was, again, more effective more growth than the good readers. All right, I'll end on this note. So I was part of this group way back in 2010, and we got a nice big fat grant from Target to build this intervention system. So all we did in year one was do classified intervention and start tier 2 intervention. That's all we did. So basically I showed you today. These are 6 schools in Minneapolis, 6 high poverty schools in Minneapolis. Now this is percent proficient, which I said earlier, I really want to focus on basics. So I understand I'm being a bit contradictory, but this is what they want us to look at. And this is the state test, not the NAEP. But in baseline, before we did anything, about 50% did pretty well in the state test in 3rd grade, which is actually pretty darn good, and given the context. We found 6 schools in Minneapolis that were very similar, and they scored about the same, and this is the state average. 1 year later, after doing what I showed you today, the percentage of kids who passed the state test shot up to over 70%, but the control group stayed at 50, and the state average stayed about the same. It really made a big effect. And unfortunately, we had one school that really didn't do a good job. You take that one school out, and the average shoots up over 80%. So it really, really, really can make a big difference. So identifying class-wide need, really targeting instruction and small group instruction and intervention can help move test scores if that's your goal. And again, really encourage you to look at your data, look at basic. Don't just look at percent proficient, really dive into percent basic and look at the items they get right and incorrect. But that's not going to happen probably. Those data probably won't come out for at least a while. So thanks again for coming. I'll wrap up there and allow the concluding comments.
Awesome. So on behalf of the Reading League Virginia, Dr. Burns, we thank you for providing information on NAEP scores. TRL chapters across the nation have been craving exactly this information, and especially how to make it applicable, right? So how to target intervention. After all, it's not one size fits all. So we could not have brought Dr. Burns here today and have his messaging without Just Right Reader. one of our amazing sponsors from TRL Virginia. And we have here today Kathleen Murrah, who is going to provide a quick spotlight on Just Right Reader. So I'm actually going to turn it over to you, Kathleen, and allow me to share my screen.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Dr. Burns. I'm so excited
Yes.
to be here with you all today. So I'll make this quick. I know we're at the end of the evening. Really appreciate you guys participating today, but I'm Kathleen Murrah. I'm with Just Right Reader. And Just Right Reader was started by our CEO and founder, Sarah Rich, just over 3 years ago. Erin, you can move forward. And I'm going to whip through these pretty quickly. Just wanted to let you know, just in that short time frame, we've had over 20 million books delivered to schools, 2,700 school districts served, actually way more than that at this point, and over 90% of the text in our books is decodable. So that's very important to us. Next slide. Okay. We like to say that we have two different types of products. We have our classroom libraries and we have our Take Everywhere literacy packs. And I'll tell you a little bit more about those in just a minute. But what makes our decodables special is we always base everything in our decodables on the best research around the science of reading. And we have worked with all of these experts. So Just Right Reader is a supplement, and we've created curriculum alignments that go along with all of your core curriculum. So you'll notice, I know many of you mentioned U-Fly today. That's on here as well. All of these are listed on our website for you. So what is our secret sauce? So our secret sauce is that every one of our decodables has a QR code on the back that leads to a 2 to 3 minute phonics video. And they are in several languages, and we're continuously creating additional languages to support your districts. We just want to have that extra instruction right there at point of use for your kids and for their parents. And you'll be amazed at the explicit phonics instruction. It's front and center on the front page, the first page of every one of our decodables. The new vocabulary is highlighted, the focus skill. And again, just reminding you that 90% of the text or more is decodable. So I mentioned that there are two different types of products. We have our classroom libraries. They're available in single packs or in 6-packs. So we have our pre-emergent library, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and we even have our high interest chapter books library now for your older learners. Now the product that I feel like no one else has is our Take Everywhere literacy packs. So what's so special about these is that we take your district data and we use that data to create a specific packet of 10 decodables that are personalized exactly perfectly for each child with their name. It comes printed on the front. When teachers get their box for their classroom, imagine they're pulling out these really cute packages that look like presents for each student with their name on them, passing these out. The students are excited, engaged, and you can get up to 11 rounds of these. So these go home with the students in these backpacks that can be customized for district implementations with this message from the superintendent talking about how our district is supporting literacy. And these are just some of the ways that districts have used these Take Everywhere literacy packs. Some have ordered 4 to 6 packs for each student for summer learning. Some have used these during school breaks for students. Some have used them for tutoring, but the most effective way that we've seen is for them to take them home. They come every 2 weeks for these students throughout the course of the year. And we know that implementation has to be easy. Teachers have so much on their plates. So we have created these lessons plans for your teachers. We have created activities for the families also to involve them. These stories are stories that every child will love. And we specifically put all of the text on the opposite side of the page from the visual so that teachers can fold that book in half and really make sure students are focusing on the words as they're reading. Okay, so just to wrap it up, this is our website. It's justrightreader.com, and you can go onto that website and click on the resources tab. And once you click on that resources tab, you can request a sample. This will filter out to our team, and we can send you your very own packet. It has our catalog that lists all our classroom libraries, the Take Everywhere packs, and just actual samples of some of these decodable text. So we really appreciate your time today. Thank you for staying 5 minutes over. We are here to support your literacy initiatives.
Awesome. And thank you, Kathleen. Can you put the link in the chat in case anybody's interested?
Absolutely.
And I have to thank you and Just Right Reader once again for making this evening possible. Our joint network chapter event with many states across all of America that represent the Reading League. And with that, at the beginning of this evening, Andrea had mentioned, hey, don't forget to connect with your local chapters. So I'm going to end it today by saying, don't forget to also connect with National. So the Reading League National, here's some information. And yeah, let's get connected. Awesome group of folks tonight. Thank you all. And one more thanks to Dr. Burns.
Thanks again. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Hey, great work, everyone. That was really smooth. Dr. Burns, that was fast and furious. That was